This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. I'm Sophie Ikenye. In the program tonight, we will be live with Peter Okoche in Abuja. He's been told by the chairman of Nigeria's Electoral Commission that everyone in the country will get a say in next month's poll.
INEC is committed to conducting elections all over the country. On no account should citizens be disenfranchised, whether it is by dislocation or disability or any other reason.
Also tonight, shootings, beatings and rape. Victims of violence in Zimbabwe accuse the army of using force to stifle dissent.
They slapped me. They said they want to have sex with me. After that, I was so scared.
The wonders of Algeria. We look at the ancient tombs and a campaign to get them UNESCO World Heritage status. Also in the program, mastering the moves. Young people in Somaliland's capital are taking up taekwondo to help stay healthy. And in sport, done deal as Ivory Coast agrees to have their Africa Cup of Nations moved. Thanks for joining us on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. It's election season in Nigeria, and on the 16th of February, millions of people will be casting their ballot. The stakes are high, even as the incumbent president, Muhammadu Buhari, seeks a second term in office. More than 84 million people are eligible to vote in this poll, and they will have to choose from 92 political parties and a field of more than 70 candidates, all vying for the presidency. Now, the main contenders are incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari from the All Progressives Congress, who faces stiff competition from the People's Democratic Party candidate Atiku Abubakar. Well, Nigerians will be focused on whether the Electoral Commission will ensure a free and fair election. Well, Peter Okoche is in Nigeria for Focus on Africa's election coverage and joins us now from Abuja. Peter.
Well, Sophie, as you just mentioned, there are 84 million Nigerians registered to vote. Let me just put that in some perspective for you. That's more than the whole population of Ghana, Ivory Coast, and Senegal put together. Or for our East African audience, it's just 10 million people less than the population of Kenya and Uganda put together. So the Independent National Electoral Commission, or INEC, faces a huge logistical challenge, trying to get all the ballot papers and voting materials out to the nook and crannies of this vast nation on the night before the elections, which take place on the 16th of February. Now, apart from this challenge, recently there's been an upsurge in attacks by Boko Haram in the northeast. There's a lot of banditry in the northwest of the country. Clashes between cattle herders and farmers have left hundreds of thousands of people displaced. So, will they be voting? Will they be able to vote, these people in conflict areas? That's the question that I put to the chairman of INEC, Mahmoud Yakubu.
INEC is committed to conducting elections all over the country. On no account should citizens be disenfranchised, whether it is by dislocation or disability or any other reason. And so we are committed to conducting elections nationwide.
The presidential candidate of the opposition, PDP, told the BBC that he doesn't have any faith in INEC. He doesn't believe that INEC is prepared to hold free and fair elections in the country, and that you are working hand in glove with the APC-led government.
Well, tell me one electoral commission before now that all political parties express confidence in. Tell me one. As elections approach, we hear all this. We won't be distracted. Where we have genuine concerns expressed by important segments of society who listen to these genuine concerns and will respond accordingly.
So is the point you're making that there will be less rigging than before, or there will be no rigging?
Our commitment is that there will be no rigging.
One thing that INEC has been commended for, I must say, is the fact that for the first time visually impaired Nigerians or Nigerians with visual impairments will be able to vote?
Okay, as part of our inclusiveness, we have a whole department or division in the Commission dealing with disabilities. We have a whole committee of the Commission also dealing with that. We have engaged with civil society organizations representing persons with disabilities. For those who have visual impairment and they have been to special schools and can read Braille, beginning with the Osun governorship election, we introduced tactile ballots. And it's a jacket. They will get the normal ballot that all citizens get, but they can easily slip the ballot into the jacket. And because they can read Braille, they can easily identify the acronyms of the political parties. And by the side of the acronym is a perforation. The perforation is the place where they can thumbprint. So they can thumbprint unaided. But that is for those who have been to special schools and can read Braille. But for those who cannot read Braille, they have to be guided. And they can bring a relative or a trustworthy person to help them on election day. That is allowed.
So as you heard Mahmoud Yakubu telling me there, for the first time, Nigerians with visual impairments will be able to vote. They've now got these jackets where the ballot paper fits in that has got Braille on it, and they can use that to vote. Now, these jackets have cost INEC about $100,000 to print, and my colleague Thomas Nadi has been finding out more.
Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, goes to the polls again. It's the 6th election since the country returned to multi-party system 20 years ago. But the people with disabilities say they have always felt marginalized during elections. They say the voting process hasn't catered to their needs. However, this time around, there will be help at hand. Ballot guides in Braille, which will help them identify candidates on the ballot paper.
Live from the Max FM newsroom, I'm Victor Atuya.
Victor Atuya is a broadcaster at Max FM in Lagos.
Unjustifiable force against
He is visually impaired and hopes to vote this year.
I'm very excited about it. I see it as a fulfillment of one of the signposts of democracy, which is citizens' participation in an election, and this one coming as well, and also that it's going to also meet the other two, which are accountability and transparency.
The exact number of persons living with disability in Nigeria is unknown, but the visually impaired make up a significant part of the country's nearly 200 million population, and they will play a role in electing the next president. The winner will require 25% of votes in at least 2/3 of the states in Nigeria. Over 1 million visually impaired Nigerians are expected to benefit from the Braille Guide in this year's elections. But the concern has been that enough voter education hasn't been done for it to be used effectively. For now, the Braille Guide will only be used in the presidential elections because the same ballot papers will be issued nationwide, unlike the governorship elections where the candidates on the ballot vary from each state. The Nigerian Blind Association has been campaigning for this since 2012.
So the challenge has always been that we voted believing that we are voting for who we wanted to vote for. If we voted for that person or that party or not, we do not know. It's an assumption. But here, as blind people with a guide, with some training, you can be rest assured as a blind person that you are voting for the person you want to vote.
Like many visually impaired persons, Victor Atuya is not ashamed of his condition. They say what they want is recognition of their needs as they continue to push for a law to protect their rights in this country. Thomas Nadi, BBC News, Lagos.
And as you can imagine, the presidential candidates, just over 2 weeks to go before those elections, are crisscrossing the length and breadth of Nigeria, trying to get people on side in their campaigns ahead of that vote. In fact, today, Wednesday, was the Federal Executive Council meeting. It normally runs into about 6 hours, but President Muhammadu Buhari cut it short so he could jet out of Abuja to try and get more people to vote for him. Sophie.
All right, Peter Okwoche for us there in Abuja. Well, let's move on to other news now, because a search and rescue operation is underway with more than 100 migrants reported missing off the coast of Djibouti after 2 boats capsized. The route is often used by migrants from countries in the Horn of Africa, including Somalia and Ethiopia, to reach Gulf states via Yemen. Now, the tragedy occurred off Godoria in the Obok region of northeast Djibouti. According to the International Organization for Migration, at least 38 bodies have been recovered, but high tides and winds are hampering the rescue operation. Meanwhile, the United Nations Refugee Agency has released its latest report on the dangers for migrants crossing the Mediterranean each year, many from Africa. It found 6 people a day died in 2018 while making the perilous journey. Now, while the overall numbers of those making the crossing are falling, the agency warns the number of those dying is getting higher. Last year, almost 2,300 people died attempting to make the dangerous journey across the Mediterranean. Less than 117,000 people arrived in Europe by sea. That's the lowest amount in 5 years. But the Refugee Agency says cuts in rescue operations by European countries and restrictions on humanitarian boats trying to save lives are pushing the death toll up. Now, fear continues to be the instrument of control in Zimbabwe despite an end to protests almost 2 weeks ago. The BBC has heard testimonies from victims that the army is using violence and rape as a tool of repression. And the crackdown is expected to continue as teachers plan to hold a nationwide strike on Tuesday. Andrew Harding has this report.
A bullet through both legs as he ran away.
Soldiers shoot me.
A broken arm.
Soldiers, they started beating me up.
Zimbabwe's security forces on the warpath, assaulting these men on the streets of Harare. And slowly, women are coming forward too, also scared to be identified. 6 tell us they've been raped by soldiers. This woman, a young mother of 2, told us she believed the intention was to terrorize the whole neighborhood.
They slapped me. They said they want to have sex with me. After that, I was so scared.
The security crackdown has continued here long after violent street protests about economic hardship shook Zimbabwe.
Why is the repression continuing? Why is it that it's happening in the middle of the night where people's homes are being invaded and people assaulted indiscriminately, like what is happening?
And this is unprovoked now?
I think surely we can conclude that it's unprovoked.
An opposition councillor still in hiding in a township scarred by the violence of the past days. Families, even pets, have been assaulted here.
What are you afraid of?
I'm just being afraid of being kidnapped and disappear.
Thank you, Amma. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Zimbabwe's opposition leader has ruled out dialogue with the government while the army remains on the streets.
So what we have is almost a de facto state of emergency, if it has not been declared, but that is what we are living under. It also shows you that we are back to the old days of dictatorship, the days of tyranny, the days of terror, the days of fear.
A well-placed military source has told us this crackdown will continue for some time, that the president has sanctioned it, and that soldiers have been told to use sticks and batons, not bullets, to crush dissent.
The authorities insist they are simply restoring order, that any abuses by the security forces will be investigated.
We appeal to the complainants to come forward and also report. Then we can also investigate. I think I said it again. There's no one above the law.
But Zimbabwe's lawyers marching through Harare say the law is being flouted by a government intent on scaring people, on administering what feels to many here like collective punishment. Andrew Harding, BBC News, Harare.
Let's now take a quick look at other stories making headlines. Sudanese security forces have questioned Mariam Sadiq Al-Mahdi, that's the deputy leader of the Umma party. She's the daughter of opposition leader Sadiq Al-Mahdi, seen here at Friday prayers last week. According to Reuters, Mariam was taken from her home this morning. Meanwhile, university lecturers in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, have staged a sit-in at the main campus as anti-government protests continue. According to officials, they discussed peaceful alternatives to removing President Omar al-Bashir from power. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Still to come in sport, Liverpool receive a huge boost in their English Premier League title race. I'm Sophie Ikenye and you're watching Focus on Africa from BBC World News. The top story on this program, the chairman of Nigeria's Electoral Commission has told the BBC that everyone in the country will get a say in next month's poll. Now to Algeria, where archaeologists are trying to protect ancient tombs like this one. There are 13 monuments outside the capital, Algiers. Some believe they were built to be the final resting places for Berber royalty, but it's really not known for sure. So Algerian authorities are pushing to get them listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site for their preservation and study. The BBC's Victoria Ouahunda explains.
These archaeology students are trying to piece together the broken parts of what are known as the wonders of Algeria. Gently, they use water and brushes, spending hours to clean stone-engraved symbols on the pyramid tombs that are centuries old.
We are cleaning the symbols so that they can be seen better. Then we will measure the stones and symbols.
But they are not experts, which is why Algerian authorities want the site to be listed by UNESCO to secure its preservation.
We put the stone back to its original place because it had been moved. We want to protect the wall and stop it from deteriorating further.
If the site gets World Heritage backing, it will also mean the unique relics undergo much-needed research. Up until now, there hasn't been enough, leaving the Jeddas shrouded in mystery.
The authorities have not skimmed on resources to enhance and classify the site, but people also need to be involved in the preservation on this asset.
The research team has been working on Jeddah A, which sits on Mount Lekdar, along with monuments B and C. The remaining Jeddahs, known by the letters D through to M, are on Mount Aruri, a hilltop around 6 kilometers away. Each contain at least one room, with the largest mound giving way to a labyrinth of 20 compartments, which include chambers. Only the 3 oldest of the 13 Jeddahs have been explored since Algeria's independence in 1962, and it's hoped the bid for UNESCO backing will change that. Victoria Ouahunda, BBC News.
You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. Let's find out what's happening in the world of sport with Mimi.
Thank you very much, Sophie. We begin in football. After weeks of uncertainty, the Confederation of African Football says Ivory Coast has agreed to host the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations instead of 2021. The West African country had initially rejected the 2-year delay and going as far as taking it to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. But that all changed after the CAF president Ahmad met with Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara on Tuesday. This move allows Cameroon, who were stripped of hosting this summer's tournament due to delays in preparations, to hold the 2021 edition.
In 2021, the African Cup of Nations will be held in Cameroon. They have 80% completed today. And then maybe, as we are Africans, there is an order of priority. And Ivory Coast 2023 and Guinea 2025.
Just a day left before the European transfer window closes for most of Europe, and Ghana international Baba Rahman has joined French Ligue 1 side Reims on loan from English Premier League side Chelsea until the end of the season with an option to buy. And Senegal international Assane Diouf has returned to Italy with Serie A's Chievo Verona on loan. The 21-year-old joins from French Ligue 1 side Saint-Etienne until the end of the season. Now, these two, Senegal's Sadio Mane and Egypt's Mohamed Salah, will be looking for Liverpool to go 7 points clear at the top of the English Premier League table today when they host Leicester City at home. They received a boost to their title hopes when Manchester City had a shock loss away to Newcastle on Tuesday. Liverpool now face the prospect of getting their first league title in 29 years. Manager Jurgen Klopp says Leicester City are a dangerous opponent.
Because they have quality. If we can go through the team, that's a super team, to be honest. So I can imagine that they are not happy with the situation, because you think about that. I'm not sure which position are they in the moment, 11th, 10th, 11 or so. Yeah, and obviously a few years ago, it would have been a brilliant position for Leicester, but after being champion and playing Champions League, now it's not that good, and they invest a lot of money in the team, obviously, as well. So, but they have a really good team, centre halves, full-backs, midfielders, really interesting and up front. Yeah, very talented, and with Jamie Vardy, one of the best strikers in the league.
And finally, in American football, we're building up to Super Bowl 53, which takes place this Sunday in Atlanta. New England Patriots and Los Angeles Rams will be going head-to-head for the ultimate prize, the National Football League Championship. Rams defensive tackle Damukong Suh, who is of Cameroonian descent, spoke to the BBC Sport about another passion of his ahead of the game.
I love soccer or football, as we call it in the UK, or overseas, where my dad's from Cameroon. And this has been a great situation. I've enjoyed every bit of it. I love going to London and play games, as well as go and take part in watching soccer over there. My sister used to play for the Cameroon national team, so hopefully they have an opportunity to get there and maybe go and support them. I look forward to getting back to France. It's been a good amount of time there, but not long periods of time, so I'm excited to get back.
Sport runs in the family, and that's all the sport. Back to you, Sophie.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you. Now to Somaliland's capital, Hargeisa, where young people are flocking to a martial arts club that specializes in taekwondo training. It's being used not only to improve physical well-being, but also help deter drug use. Lisa Marie Mishtak has more.
In Hargeisa, taekwondo has been rising in popularity over the years. Several hundred young people train at Saban Star Sports Club. They travel from different regions across Somaliland to attend the classes. Amin is one of the trainees. As a small child, he says he was unsettled, but once he started training in taekwondo, he became calm and patient.
People have asked why I don't practice with real people yet. I train and I know how painful it can be. The power from one kick can kill people sometimes if you hit them in a certain way.
Mustafi Abdi Saban is the owner of the club and has competed in taekwondo tournaments for 11 years. Having won numerous medals, he now directs his attention to training the youth.
There are two conditions to join the club. First, you must be drug-free, and second, you must be healthy. The benefits of the sports help you to get healthier, smarter. This in turn can be used against drug use and people trafficking.
The training complex also trains girls in taekwondo. Lisa Marie Mishtak, BBC News.
Just telling my colleagues there that I actually did taekwondo for a while but gave up. Well, don't forget you can get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm @CKenye. That's all from the program. From me and the rest of the Focus on Africa team, thank you for your company.